Mr. Bilkey, who is have an excused absence this evening, and otherwise we have a quorum. At this time, I'm going to call on our city's chaplain, Thomas O'Brien, to lead us in the prayer and then thereafter pledge allegiance. So would everyone please rise?
With bowed heads, let us pray. Almighty God, Father of all mankind and Judge over nations, we pray Thee to guide our work in this meeting. Give our council members the courage to work in a harmonious way to ensure that the goals of our community are met in a timely manner. Today, as we celebrate our United States Army's 243rd birthday, we pray for our brave men and women. Blessed are those who serve in our country's military, as they guard us from both domestic and foreign enemies. With your blessing, Almighty God, may they maintain peace in the world by discharging their duties both honestly and well. And finally, O God of mercy, the strength of the weak and the comfort of sufferers, mercifully accept our prayers on behalf of our neighbors and loved ones who are ill or shut in. Cheer them and bring them the blessing of health and happiness. Amen. And now with hand over heart, please face our flag and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. Another fine job. Enjoy yourself this evening.
I will.
Thank you again. Each week, at each council meeting, you come here and you take of your time and do this, so we really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda, I believe, would be the minutes of our May 24th, 2018 meeting.
Make a motion to accept the May 24th, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Here we have a motion, a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda then would be ordinance number 66.
No, financial report.
Financial
I'm
report
sorry.
or go on to proclamation?
Oop, oop. Did I miss something here?
Financial report, okay.
Oh, the financial report, I'm sorry. I'm looking off the packet agenda, which is different always.
Always.
Always, I know.
I'll make a motion to accept and acknowledge the receipt of the financial report dated May 31st, 2018.
Second.
Here we have a motion, a second, for acknowledgement of the receipts of the financial report dated May 31st, 2018, and all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is the public comments, or the proclamations. So let me take the proclamations. Boy, having a real hard time tonight. The first proclamation, I see that Abram's here with a group of people. Hi, Abram. They took over the facility that, I think that was the Bible Believers building, which is next to the Methodist Church, just to the west. Abram, would you like to introduce the folks that are with you?
I'm Abraham Panikotu. I'm a member of Orthodox Church. We are Indian Orthodox Church. We have around 100 people attend our service. We are from basically from southern part of India, or Kerala. We are followers of St. Thomas.
Hi, my name is Shobu Thomas. I'm Thomas Matthew. Yes, Dr. Shine Raju.
I'm Shubi Thomas. Hi, I'm Cheryl Cook. I'm Minnie Abraham. Sorry.
Well, thank you for being here, and I have a proclamation to read on your behalf, and we're excited that you are located in our community, and we're looking forward to your event that's coming up very shortly, and we wish you a lot of luck there. So I'll read this. Is from the Office of the Mayor, Macedonia, Ohio proclamation. It's whereas the first India Festival in the city of Macedonia will take place on Saturday, July 14th at 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the St. Gregorius Indian Orthodox Church grounds, 1252 East Aurora Road. And whereas the India Festival is an event to bridge cultures, generations, and communities through one day of togetherness. And whereas it is a day when visitors are encouraged to participate in a thematic display of rich culture and diversity of two great nations, India and the United States of America, and promises an immersive environment that salutes history. And whereas visitors will have the opportunity to sample delicious Indian food and participate in an array of fun-filled activities, music, and dance. And whereas St. Gregorius Church has been instrumental in reaching out to the community locally, nationally, and internationally, establishing Sunday school ministry and providing opportunities for all members continuing their ministry. Now therefore, I, Mayor Joseph Miglerini, Mayor of the City of Macedonia, do hereby designate and proclaim July 14th, 2018 as India Festival USA Embracing Diversity Day. And I will execute it this day, and I will actually give you this proclamation. So Abraham, if on behalf of your church, I'm going to give you this. And look forward, by the way, to coming to the festival. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
Can we get everybody?
Sure. I'm going to put the thorn between all these words. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Welcome to our city. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more proclamation to read. And I know that Josephine's hand is always in these proclamations, by the way. She is the artist of proclamations. While I take the credit for it, she is the artist about it. I think that Diana has some.
I actually think Miss Augustine.
Oh, did Diana? Okay, Diana then is, but I remember a lot of times
Well.
in my past life, Josephine used to put a lot of these together, so.
Teamwork.
Teamwork, absolutely. Office of the Mayor, Macedonia, Ohio, Prostate Cancer Proclamation. Whereas this year, approximately 164,900 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States alone. That is one man every 3.2 minutes, and roughly 29,430 will die this year from the disease, which is one man every 18 minutes. And whereas in Ohio, an estimated 5,800 new cases of prostate cancer will be diagnosed, and an estimated of 1,100 deaths will occur in 2018. And whereas men with relatives, fathers, brothers, son, with a history of prostate cancer are twice as likely to develop the disease. And whereas veterans who were exposed to herbicides like Agent Orange are at an increased risk of developing prostate cancer and are more likely to have aggressive form of the disease. Whereas prostate cancer is mostly commonly diagnosed cancer in America, men, and the third leading cause of cancer death behind lung and colon cancer. And whereas 1 in 9 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer, African men are the highest risk for the disease with a rate of 1 in 6. African American men are 2.3 times more likely to die from the disease. And be it resolved, all men are at risk for prostate cancer, and we encourage the citizens of the city of Macedonia to increase the importance of prostate screening. And so therefore I personally would encourage people to annually get checked for that, because, you know, as a man of my age, I certainly do it. I hate the test that they give you, but I do it every year. But I would encourage everyone to do that, and we're going to execute this date, and we'll send it on to the organization. So with that, we can move on to public comments, and we have three individuals that would like to speak. We have a Mark Porter. The subject is the Lombinger property. Mark, are you here?
I am, Mayor. There are residents who would like to address council first. I would defer to them, as I am from South Russell Village.
Okay, you're welcome, though, you were the first one to sign in. You're welcome to start off if you'd like, but otherwise I can, because normally the people that are here that I see that are on the list, they live close by, and so why don't you move forward?
We'll be glad to be here. Use the microphone, I suppose.
Sure. Could you just state your name and address and who you're representing?
Certainly. My name is Mark Porter. I'm at 1180 Bell Road, Suite 5, South Russell, Ohio, 44022, and I represent Kurt Lobinger. Some people know him as Skip Lobinger. And for those who are long-term residents here in Macedonia, the city of, recall probably the greenhouses that the Lobinger family ran for many, many years. And as that business evolved and changed over time, that there was a building built on the site, and it is that building that Mr. Lobinger is concerned about at this point. He had engaged a new tenant for a portion of that building at $1,800 a month for a 5-year contract, a printing company. But the printing company submitted a occupancy request, and I'll hand copies to the clerk. And essentially, he got a verbal phone call that said, you can't go into this property because it's now zoned residential or something to that effect. Mr. Lobinger's issue with that is that should the entire property be considered residential, would render his warehouse facility essentially worthless, because it would only be, I think it's an R1 district. But the Macedonia Code is fairly clear, I think, about continuation of existing uses and conditional conditions in a situation like this was 1173.03 of the zoning code, and it says that basically it's a grandfather provision. So Mr. Lobinger's father built the building in 1976, it was modified in '89, and then periodically there were modifications to it thereafter with the approval of the building department of the city of Macedonia. And for that purpose, I reached out to Mr. Guidetti here to discuss the issue, and we talked about it briefly before the meeting, and we'll discuss it further tomorrow. But I did want to bring it to council's attention that this may be an issue that comes up in the future. Mayor, I appreciate your time, and also that of city council members. I'm a council member myself in the village of South Russell, so I know the amount of time this sort of thing takes out of your day and out of your month and everything else. And we're just a village, you all are a city, so you have way more things to do than we do generally. So I thank you for your time.
You know, I just have a question or two of you, if I could. Actually, other than when the law director just brought this up to me today, I was not aware of this situation at all. So I guess my question is this. Was there a point in time to which the operation that existed in those buildings had ceased to operate, so there was nobody operating out of them?
No. Mr. Lobinger has maintained an office in the building. It's basically divided into 3 parts. And there's been a candy company there with the actual vending machines, the sort you might see in barber shops. That's been there about 20 years or so. It's the center section that is at issue. The printer wanted to be able to put his printing equipment there, and he had to do some major modifications to his equipment and probably to the building for that purpose. So at least from Mr. Lobinger's point of view, and I frankly share it, is that the center section can't be residential and the other sides be commercial.
Well, I'm just going back in time since I have a long time history with the city. Was there, when he closed down the greenhouses, those buildings were support for the greenhouses at the time?
That is true.
Okay, so the operations that then thereafter came in had at some time come in years later or a time later after the greenhouses were closed, I'm assuming?
The building was there before the greenhouses were taken down, and he had been granted occupancy permits over the years, even after the greenhouses were gone. So the business use of the property continued unabated from at least 1976 on. So from his point of view, he thinks that it should retain its agricultural rating that it had way back when, and that he should be permitted to use the facility as he has in the past.
And see, the way the ordinance, as I read it, is that once a business ceases to operate, then that reverts back. The grandfather clause does no longer exist.
There's a section in the code, it basically says if there's been a cessation in use for 6 months or more, then the code strips that property of any grandfathering use. So this case, and we've done a little bit of research, and Mr. Porter and I will discuss it tomorrow, the case will come down to the facts of exactly what use has been made and the length of time that use has been made for.
Okay. Do you know whether or not, and again, I don't know the answer to this, is that at the time any of these companies that you are referring to, did they ever get occupancy?
Yes.
They did? So there was occupancy permits issued to them?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't know that, but I'm just asking the question.
That's a very valid question.
Okay.
I appreciate the
All right,
council.
thank you. Okay, moving on, Kathy Loya.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Loya. My address 9186 North Bedford Road. I'd like to talk about the forgotten problem here in Macedonia, which is stormwater.
Never forgotten, Kathy.
Oh, okay. Please recall that in October of last year of 17, we had representatives here from NERSD, and they made a presentation to the city regarding their regional stormwater management program. It was indicated in this presentation that their stormwater master plan recommendations for phase 1 for Indian Creek through this NERSD study would be made available at the end of the first quarter of 18. Well, that's obviously come and gone. So I have been following up. I talked with Ms. Webb at NERSD on April 27th and then again this past Monday, June 11th. So here is the update that I received. I was told that the goal of NERSD is to have this stormwater master plan closed in November of this year. Further, the goal is for projects from this master plan will be nominated for the 2019 stormwater construction plan. Now again, this is just a nomination process. This by no means guarantees any type of projects would be worked on. So to reiterate, there's basically no new information as to when this master plan is going to be done, when they're ready to make any type of recommendation at all. Hopefully, maybe, in November of 18, there'll be some information. So please note that this study began in the summer of 2016. They were at my property on May 25th of 2016. Please also note that the City of Macedonia had already paid for a study by the then City Engineers GPD, which was turned over to the city in January of 16, which of course was only one of many studies done throughout the years. Please also note that either myself or my husband have been coming to the city with our stormwater problems since the summer of 2006. And yet no action can be taken because I'm always told to wait for the study. I had asked on January 11th of 2018 the following, and I quote, "I implore this council and this administration to stay on top of NERSD regarding the stormwater master plan. The layers and layers of bureaucracy involved with NERSD is exhausting, and molasses on a cold January day can flow faster. Please stay on this organization since the city no longer wishes to accept the responsibility for stormwater in the Ledge and North Bedford area. I think this is the least that the city can do for my husband and I, as the city refuses to do anything else. That's what I said in January. And yet again, the city of Macedonia can't deliver by staying on this organization when it comes to completion of this latest and greatest study, or even getting any type of inkling of information about what recommendations they might have thus far. I do the follow-up with NEORSD myself because I know, unfortunately, that I can't count on my city to follow through. Stormwater always seems to be forgotten about in Macedonia until a rain event occurs. Through social media, when photos and videos are posted, only then does the city react. I refuse to use social media in that manner because I believe it's not the proper platform to work with local government on an issue. I believe that discussing issues with local government officials in person or via telephone is the proper platform and channel for action to occur. North Bedford and Ledge Road have been forgotten about for decades, in particular my property at 9186 North Bedford Road, even though it's been well documented throughout the decades, all of the damage that's been done there. I will remind the city that my property was updated by FEMA in 2009 to an AE flood zone. So for going on 8 years now, we just pay and pay and pay for all the woes that we have with our property. And then, of course, I shared with you, FEMA said, 15 to 18% increase each year on our insurance. So I guess at least FEMA's paying attention to my property. On another note, I'm also interested in the city's plans for our money that's being held by NEORSD through their community cost share program. Please don't forget about this money. It's our money, as this city seems to forget about stormwater. We are all mandated to pay the stormwater fee to NEORSD, an organization where we have zero representation. No Summit County officials sit on any boards. It's all Cuyahoga County members. Through this community cost share program with NEORSD, please, again, remember that this is our money. While the city ignores other problems, such as mine, and no longer accepts responsibility for the mess created over the decades of neglect, please make sure that the use of this money is finally used to address other long-term and big stormwater problems here in Macedonia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. And the only comment I have is that, you know, it's not that the city is not looking at stormwater. That's probably the #1 problem the city faces on a day in and day out basis. And you know, it's overwhelming in the amount of stormwater problems that are out there in the community. Yours is one of many. We have been working with NEORSD. I think there's going to be soon some sort of recommendation from them as to how we proceed. So have faith in the system. I know it's taken a long time.
Can we have another meeting with them? The reason I bring it up, Kathy and I were on the original committee, but they came in and said, oh, by the way, we're going to start charging, and you'll get some money. And that was 10 years ago or more. The reason I ask that is there are other entities that they're looking at in Cuyahoga County that they still haven't done those. My concern is if they haven't done the major projects in Cuyahoga County, what leads me to believe they're going to do any project in Summit County.
Well, they did, though. Look they did the Sioux Lane, and they paid 100% of it.
Part of that was the negotiations with the lawsuit where we initially challenged the imposition of a fee.
Right.
Part of the settlement agreement, they agreed to prioritize some of the projects, which they've done at least once. So,
But so we have to go to a lawsuit to get them to hear what she's saying. We were told we'd have a study. We did a study, we did another study, we did another study, and NEORSD promised us it would be here. Mm-hmm. And now they're saying maybe in November, and oh, by the way, I can't tell you where you're gonna fall on that list. And I only bring it up because when they met with us originally, they talked about Dome Creek, they talked about Big Creek Parkway, and I go, those are all Cuyahoga County. What are you gonna do for us? One of the things we did talk about in the budget meeting, I brought up the fact that we cannot forget that part of the tax increase is to be designated to stormwater.
Yes,
and we haven't seen those projects start yet because we're waiting for this study, but there are other stormwater projects within the community that we need to address. So I guess I would ask that, is there any way to put pressure on NEORSD and maybe have a meeting with them for them to say, why was it delayed again? And what guarantee do we have that we'll actually get the study in November?
I think if you speak to, if we ask for a meeting with them, we'll end up meeting with Ms. Webb, who will tell you she's at, you know, she's at the end of the chain.
We want the real people.
Yeah, I don't know that, you know, they're gonna, although I think one of the higher ups there does live out this way. I think we spoke to her when we went there earlier this year. So, yeah, I think we need to make sure if we do take a meeting, it's not just, you know, not that Ms. Webb is not someone that's working for us and a good representative for us. She can only do so much. She's basically able to pass on information to people. And you know, Kathy, I want to personally apologize. I know that I'm very familiar with your problems and was there when they first started. And it's one of those things that, you know, March went by, April came up, I was like, oh, I should contact Ms. Webb and ask her about that. And then, you know, it comes up, well, I would have heard from Kathy if there was something. And I should have taken the initiative myself to contact them and just at least see what's going on, because you asked us to. So I apologize on my behalf. And I have a question about the cost share. It is something that we do have to match, right? We can't say how much is in our coffers and spend all that, right? We have to match when we do projects
I believe
with
the
the
money
cost share.
no, I believe that it's not a match issue. I believe that we can get the money.
But we have to front it. No?
We just have to show that it's for an approved purpose, and then the NURSD signs off on it, then we can use those funds towards whatever stormwater project that we're interested in.
So it could be at no cost out of our budget,
Right.
towards our budget.
Right.
It's just.
I mean, you know, I'll just say this. I think there's going to be a positive to the result of the problems that are over there, just from what I'm hearing, and without having to relinquish anything at this point in time. So they're working on it, and just keep your fingers crossed.
Sorry,
You know,
that's probably not what you wanted to hear.
It's not what you want to hear, but you know what?
Keeping fingers crossed is not an acceptable
The big
answer.
wheel of bureaucracy, unfortunately, you know,
Is there
we're out of
reason-
control when the bureaucracy of different layers of government are involved.
Is there a reason why there isn't a Summit County representative, since the multiple communities sued them to get our money?
We do have a representative, goes to any ORSD meetings, yes. Our city engineer goes to all the meetings.
But is he voting?
As far as being on the decision-making portion of the board, I do not believe that
No,
we have
he's-
representation, and that was one of the arguments that was made in the lawsuit. It was essentially a taxation without representation, which the courts ultimately rejected.
Of course they did.
They reject that argument?
Yes.
Is there
A
anything
fee
in-
versus a tax was
No,
what it boiled down.
you can certainly run for the position.
You're never going to win. You're the
Yeah,
minority.
I mean, you can run for the elected positions that are on the board because they are under a PERS pay.
Is there anything we could do legally to apply some pressure? Because obviously this problem just keeps lingering, and it's not just Kathy Loya I'm worried about. It's everything from here on out. I mean, look what we went through with Sue. It took, what, a year and a half to get to that? And that's not even a complicated project. So is there any legal pressure we can say,
I
hey,
mean, we could start with a letter and a meeting. Unfortunately, that's probably the starting place, and then take it from there.
Mayor, I think we're there. I mean, obviously, you're the administrator and it's your call, but I think that this has been lingering for entirely too long.
Well, we'll reach out to NERSD through the web, and we'll see what the status is, and making sure that we will continue to nudge them, and we'll do that.
Okay.
So.
If I may, thank you very much for your discussion on this. This is what I wanted to see, is be talking about it again, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for reminding us to bring it up again. Thanks.
Next on the agenda is Sylvia Hannikin. Sylvia, if you could just state your name and address for us, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, hi, I'm Sylvia Hannikin. I live on Hampton Drive in Macedonia. And I'm here to talk about the outcome from the finance meeting that I had the honor of attending last week. There was a lot of discussion of concerns about our ability to do certain things in the city of Macedonia. And there was concern expressed about the fact that the residents of Macedonia have not endorsed another tax increase. We did have a tax increase in May of 2017. I just want to refer back to that because there's been some concept out here that this was dedicated to roads. It was not. It was a 0.5% increase because we had to basically come up from the change that was in the rec center payments. And it says, ordinance providing for a 0.5% levy increase on income for general improvements, capital improvements, maintenance, current operating expenses, road improvements, and a city park and recreation center, et cetera. So that's what it was for. And the ordinance 11/2017 actually spells it out in more detail. But I wanted to talk to a couple of issues here, maybe to provide some insight as to why the residents have not been enthusiastically supporting these things. From the point of view of revenue, because of that issue 3 passage last year, we are now seeing a very large increase in revenue, 26%. If we compare year-to-date this year, year-to-date last year, there's a 26% increase in income tax revenue. That's the reality. Just looked at the RETA numbers here this morning. So in essence, there's been a fairly dramatic increase in revenue. Second, the Macedonia residents, as we've just discussed, have actually had to pay additional taxes. They're not called taxes, it's a fee to NERSD dedicated to stormwater, but we have benefited through like the Suline Culvert being paid for. That's a regional project. We've benefited from having that local share being used for the Iroquois projects. So they haven't done the big picture thing that they have been talked about doing, and I think they should and will, but it's been slower, and it's probably due to the overall regional planning that's required. But we have more money in that coffer too. We also reduced our regular debt payments by $1.1 million when we closed off the rec center and the city hall debt. That was taking about $1.1 million a year. So it pushed back that major payment that we were making every year for 20 years. So the question that I came up after I had thought about that, well, our revenue's up. Are we in a crisis of some kind? So I went and looked at the Plain Dealer's article on the ranking of every Ohio city for median family and household income. That was published back in December of 2017. And I discovered some interesting things. Macedonia is in the top 13% of family/household income in the state of Ohio. It's a rather amazing thing. So when you take a 2% tax on a residence, you're getting more money than you would if you're taking a 2% tax, say, on the people in, let's say, Northfield Village, for example, because we have a much higher income, double that income, actually. And so we have a situation here where there is a tremendous, 20% of the state of Ohio has a major part of the income, and we're a part of that group. And the average income tax rate for the top 20% of Ohio cities, from this, according to this, is 1.7% with 100% credit. We are at 2.25 at this point. So it's not like we're undertaxing people.
2.25.
We're at that's what I said, 2.25.
I thought you said 2.
No, not 2.5. We're at 2.25. Has there been a dramatic drop in state revenue in the last 5 years? Well, we had a drop back in 2013 due to the inheritance tax being repealed. And before that, the previous year, we lost this 50% of the local government subsidy that was being put on the local government tax. But that decreased. We were averaging about 470,000. We came down to about 220,000 in that bottom left of that recession we had.
Yeah, Sylvia, I don't want to,
Yeah.
The time limit.
Okay.
You've gone over the time limit, but I'm
Right.
giving you some latitude to kind of.
Okay, well,
Summarize it.
let me just summarize what I'm going to say here. I think we need to be respectful of the residents in this city who have said repeatedly they do not want to pay a 2.5% income tax. We've had, 6 of them now that proposed to the residents in various forums, and they don't want to see that level of taxation. And based on the state of Ohio average city, we are doing much better than a lot of places. So we need to think about how can we then utilize the funds we have long-term, make our capital plans work for us. We're going to buy a new ladder truck. Let's get the people from Sagamore and from Northfield Center to participate in purchasing that truck. It's for all of us. And let's get a look at how we can pay for that over a 15-year period, which is what is rational. We paid for our ambulances in 5 years. That's a much larger cost, and we should probably pay for that over 15 years. We need to start looking at what things we can do to make our budget manageable and not simply keep going back to the taxpayers for additional money. Thank you very much.
I will have some comments, but I'll hold them off until my mayor's report.
But can I make one comment? One of the things missing in that whole discussion was the tax credit.
Tax refund.
Yeah, there's
I actually have
You
3
didn't
points to
mention the
make
tax
as to what
credit.
you
talked
said.
about we have more money coming in, we have higher revenue. However, better paying jobs, these people in the community, but we have 100% tax credits, so.
None of that high income from Macedonia residents comes back to the city of Macedonia in that we have 100% credit, so.
Yes.
This is not a debate.
okay. Yeah.
So you're introducing facts that are not relevant to the discussion. Also,
Almost every city has 100% credit.
if our,
That's not
correct,
true.
The average rate is 1.7% in our income level.
in northeastern Ohio?
In all of Ohio.
Okay, this is not a debatable issue, so we can obviously move on. And
Sure,
we,
you can
Well,
make-
that-
you can
that-
make comments thereafter.
That 26% that it went up, it's spent. It's going to roads.
Okay.
So our income tax revenue did go up, and it's been spent.
Well,
It's-
that's a question that we ought to be looking at. Thank you very much.
Are you
One
going to stay
statement
for the
myself.
rest of the meeting?
The one statement I'll make to all that is there's still no solution to the problem of safety. And when we talk about fire, police, and service, everything that was just said made no sense to anyone, but it didn't give a solution either to how we solve the problem where we're at today.
Yeah.
So,
She introduced facts and figures that are in no way germane to the actual situation in Macedonia. If our income tax revenue went up, it's because our income tax rate went up, and all of that money has been spent on roads. No one can deny that. You see that happening. If everyone in Macedonia, if we have a high income in Macedonia, all your income tax is going to the city where you live, not the city of Macedonia. That is why we can make so much income on a very slight increase of 0.25%, because we do have higher income earners in Macedonia. So I think, I can't speak to Ms. Hannikin's motives, but it seems that she was just introducing facts to further confuse the situation and offered no solutions.
Mayor, if I could say something too?
Sure, go ahead.
Just on that fact is, prior to the increase in 2017 to 2.25%, we were previously at 2%. After the increase to 2.25%, the residents of Macedonia can get a refund of that 0.25% if their wages are eligible. So now you're back to 2%. They have to pay it first, but they can get it back. So you're still at 2%. So it's really not a true increase in income tax.
Absolutely, and
And what we are
it was
asking
totally
for,
unfair
what we plan to
statements.
ask for will be an increase in income tax, and that's the way that, we're not trying to hide it, but this, is not going to be,
Yep.
be a refund situation, but we need more money, and asking for a very small percentage of your income over what you're currently paying in the city where you work, which might already be 2.5%, might already be 2.25%, is what we're going to be asking for.
Okay, thank you. Let's then move on in our pending legislation at this time. And the first item on the agenda is ordinance number 66.
Two,
Or,
three, four,
I'm
five.
sorry, we're
We're
going
gonna
to
start
pull
with
2,
the other
3,
one.
4, 5 off the table.
I move to take ordinance 2, 2018 off the table.
Second.
We have motion second to take ordinance number 2 off the table. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
We're not doing readings, right? Just take
Just
them off
second
the-
reading.
Second.
All right, I move to offer ordinance number 2, 2018 for its second reading by title only.
Okay, do not need a second on that. Let's go out.
Don't second.
An ordinance providing for submission to the electors of the City of Macedonia, a proposed amendment to Section 303 of the Charter relative to the mayor's legislative powers.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 3 to take off the table.
I move to take ordinance number 3, 2018 off the table.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
I move to offer ordinance number 3, 2018 for its second reading by title only.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the electors of the City of Macedonia, proposed amendment to Sections 401 and 402 of the Charter relative to legislative authority and composition of council.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 4.
Mayor, I move to take ordinance 4, 2018 off the table.
Second.
We have motion second. Is there any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
I move to offer ordinance number 4, 2018 for its second reading by title only.
An ordinance providing for the submission of the electors of the City of Macedonia, proposed amendment to Section 413 of the Charter relative to the conduct of council members.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 5.
Mayor, I move to take ordinance number 5, 2018 off the table.
Second.
We have motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
I move to offer ordinance 5, 2018 for its second reading by title only.
Oh, where are you? An ordinance providing for the submission of the electors of the City of Macedonia, a proposed amendment of Section 1001 of the Charter regarding the composition of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 66, 2018.
I move to offer ordinance 66, 2018 for its second reading by title only.
Second.
An ordinance providing for the submission of the electors of the City of Macedonia, an amendment to the various sections of the Charter relative to council consideration of executive action.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 67.
I offer ordinance 67, 2018 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
An ordinance confirming the appointment of the mayor of Nino, Monaco to the position of full-time building commissioner.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 67, 2018.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I see that Nino's here in the audience. And Nino, we normally ask you to stand up and give about a 10-minute, 15-minute speech. 5 minutes, okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
With the
just
PowerPoint.
With a PowerPoint.
Gotta have a PowerPoint.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your confidence in me, Mayor and Council. I've been working in Macedonia for the last 6-7 months. I've been trying to give you as many hours as I could, trying to fill in for Shell and Sokolov. Unfortunately, we not come back. I was born in Italy. I came here, actually went to school in Italy. I graduated with a teaching degree there. I had the opportunity to come in the United States in 1969, and I've been here ever since. I started my career in inspection with the city of Lyndhurst. I spent 3 years in Lyndhurst. From Lyndhurst, I moved to Mayfield Heights, where I was assistant building commissioner for 11 years. After that, I was hired as Pepper Park as a building commissioner, where I served there for 9 years in that capacity. And the last few years, I've been working in Warrensville Heights, and lately I'm a building commissioner in Brooklyn Heights on a part-time basis. I work there 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I am trying to help this department on Tuesdays and Thursdays, whenever needed. I have to say that I've really enjoyed my time there. You have the department. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, so I think that it's a department. I'm just here to offer my expertise to kind of make it a little more efficient and trying to be more responsive to the residents and provide a better service. With this, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Nino. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Again, thanks for your confidence. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Nino. We've had the motion to accept, and all those in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Nino, congratulations.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. You know, Nino didn't talk about all of his credentials, but I'll just say this, is that he certainly has all of the disciplines of HVAC and plumbing and electrical. He's one of the, excuse the expression, but one of the old dogs, if you will, that will no longer exist into the future, of having all the credentials necessary to head up a building department. The state has made it much more difficult for one individual to hold all the disciplines. And Nino holds all those disciplines. He's also a plans examiner, so he can read all of the plans, and that's going to be a cost savings to the city, as well as he can do every inspection of every commercial, residential, industrial type building. So
how does having a full-time building commissioner save the city money as per what we are currently doing?
Yeah, it saves us money because right now we currently send out for plans examining to outside sources. Nino will be able to do that in-house. Nino will be able to cut significantly into the outside inspections and do those himself.
And maybe get them done faster?
And done faster because he'll be here. Those inspectors that we have on staff, or not on staff, are contracted services. They're called upon based on when inspections are needed. So we have to rely on them to, wherever they're at, come to us and then do the inspection. And there's been times where, unfortunately, they can't get to us in time, and we have contractors waiting for an inspection. And in the building industry, time is money, and you try to expedite it, and there's a lot of frustrations out there. So I think that Nino will be able to bring all the components together and process it a lot quicker for us.
It'll be good for the budget and good for the residents to have someone full-time. Thank you.
Right. So, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 68, I'm sorry.
68.
I move to offer ordinance number 68, 2013 for its first, second, and third readings by title only.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion is carried.
An ordinance authorizing, spelled wrong, and directing the mayor to enter into a contract with Crystal Clear Billing Services, Inc. for professional cleaning services for the City of Macedonia Family Recreation Center.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
I move to pass and post ordinance number 68, 2018 to the same according to law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 69.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 69, 2018 for its first reading by title only, please.
An emergency ordinance amending sections 18201B, 18203, and 18204A of the codified ordinances of the City of Macedonia, Ohio, in order to increase the city's income tax rate by 1/4%, starting on January 1, 2019, and continuing thereafter, and submitting the same to the electors on November 6, 2018.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 70.
Mayor, I move to offer resolution number 70 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
An ordinance authorizing the disposition of certain municipal property by the City of Macedonia Police Department in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 72115.
Can I get a brief explanation? Mayor?
Yes, there are items of which that the no longer in use, computers, police cars. We obviously just got a new fleet, so we have cars and computers and stuff that the city will be putting out to auction and disposing. I'm not quite sure of the method we're going to use this time, if we're going to do gov deals.
Gov deals,
I-
and there's minimum bids on it.
And there's minimum bids on it, so if anybody's interested in any of our ex-police cars, you certainly can go on gov.com.
Gov deals.
Gov deals, yeah. And actually, we did that, did we not, Angela, with all the equipment up at the rec center? So that was, we brought in obviously double the money, so it'd be exciting to see what we can do with these police cars. We're also going to be doing, I think at our next council meeting, some of the service department vehicles that are no longer in need and use. This way we can get them off of our books, we can get them off the insurance policies, and we can clean up our yards and get rid of them. We have a number of police cars that are just sitting outside that, while they have a lot of mileage, they're still running vehicles, so that's good.
And so council's aware, there is a provision in here similar to the recreation ordinance that allows for the disposition or salvage of the property if it doesn't sell through the auction.
Well, nobody's going to be taking it home for free, just FYI.
Yeah.
I move to adopt resolution number 70 and post the same according to law.
Second.
Your motion is second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Any other motions or other legislative actions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion authorizing the Longwood Manor Historical Society to accept on behalf of the City of Macedonia a donation of $200 in coupons from Home Depot in Macedonia for purchases at Home Depot to be used for the Manor House, and a $50 from Century Homes.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second to that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion is carried. Do we have any correspondence, Joseph? None. Okay, mayor's reports. Today, I had the opportunity, along with Rhonda and the Stifle group that is handling our bond issue, along with Retzel and Andrews, George Sarkis. We had a number of people on a conference call with Moody's. Moody's is the rating gurus, if you will, in the United States that monitors what a community's rating should be. And we're a AA3, and today we were trying to get ourselves down to a AA2, which could have changed the amount of money that we pay towards our bond issue. As you know, we're doing $9 million in bonds right now to cover the roads that we're doing throughout the city. And when you get that bond rating, obviously it's important if you can get that bond rating at a better level. So if you could get like to a AA2, it could have significantly changed the cost that we pay over the 20-year period. And the significance of that, and I'm going to give you the number in short here, but as we sat in conference with Moody's for about an hour and a half today, we went from one end to the other of about our city, and you know, we had to discuss just about everything, and we had a very well documented piece in front of us about the finances of the community and about our growth and all the good things that you want to talk about. But it really boiled down to, and the question that came up from Moody's was, well, your voters rejected the increase, did they not, just a couple weeks ago, which, you know, I like, okay, yeah, they did. They rejected it. Well, and then they asked, well, where have you been as far as your union contracts and any wage negotiations? I said, well, we've been frozen for 2 years. Okay. So when we started discussing all of these negative types of things, I got the clear indicator that because we didn't pass this last increase, and because we have been in the position that we are, and we're certainly flat, that Moody's is not likely to move our rating, at least at this point, until they see what happens in November if this goes on the ballot. The difference of what we could have saved by that movement of rating could have been as much as $52,000. And I'm assuming that was $52,000 annually?
That's in total.
In total, $52,000. So the move of not getting it passed cost the city and the residents, the taxpayers, $52,000. It may not seem like a whole lot when you have millions of dollars in revenue coming in, but nevertheless, that's the consequence to not getting it passed. We are currently at the fourth, our rating is a AA3, which is the fourth highest rating that you can get. And so it's not really a bad rating, but certainly everybody would like to get to the best rating, because when you're at the best rating, you get lower interest rates from banks or from lending institutions or from whomever's giving you the money or buying the bonds. So it's, you know, it's a dominoes effect. When you don't get something passed, then you are affected in different ways. I know that the perception of people in our community as they look at our government think, well, you know, I pay all this money in taxes. I pay my real estate taxes, I pay my income taxes, I pay the state, and I pay all this money out. Well, the true reality is, and again, I have to continue to reiterate the fact that the city does not get all of your real estate taxes. We get 9.3% of those real estate taxes. And our income tax is at effectively 2% for our residents. 0.25% of that is in a refund. So residents who want a refund can apply. They have up until July 15th to apply for that 0.25% refund. It is my, I think that the number of people in our community are working in communities that are at 2.25 or higher, and therefore they can't get the refund because they're working in communities today because everybody's either going to 2.5, 2.75, 3%. So the true reality is that we had a resident who voiced their concern about that we had all this money because we last year passed a 0.25% or 0.5%, a 0.25% of which went specifically to roads. We're doing what we promised. Promises made, promises kept. You can see that we're paving streets all over this community and we're improving everything that we can. And we did it all in 1 year, which is obviously driving our city engineer crazy right now because he's running around like a chicken without its head. But we're getting it done. And at the end of the season, I think we're going to be in that better shape because we have done all of these roads. We had, if you will, at the time when we passed this, we only could do $9 million in roads. But if you remember, we had $17 million in roads that needed to be done. And we're only doing $9 million. Now, we will, on an annual basis, have $500,000 available for preventive maintenance and to pave roads here or there. But you got to remember, we still have, if you will, what's $8 million sitting out there in roads that were not done because we gave away the refund money of 0.25. So I'm hoping that we can gain ground into the future. This new 0.25% that we're asking the residents to pass is specifically for police, fire, and service. The city is very stagnant. We are affected by the state of Ohio and the cuts that the governor made out of our local government fund. And that $650,000 annually that we would have been receiving would have kept us at a point where we wouldn't be asking the residents for more money. I'm not a person, I pay a lot of taxes as a businessman in the community, and I wouldn't be standing up here telling you and asking you to pay more taxes if it wasn't necessary. Why would I want to tax myself, if you will? if it wasn't necessary. So that's the only thing I can really preach to everybody, that they really need to get behind this. I would hope that council, police, fire, service, and the administrative employees and everyone in the city gets involved and gets behind this, and we can get this passed in November. It's crucial. It's really crucial. It's not a joke, you know. So with that, I'll move on. Committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
We just had a Parks and Rec committee meeting. You joined us there. We discussed the the laying of the grindings on the oval field, which is at the far east side of Longwood Park. This is something that was kind of initiated before we had a chance to look at it, but the mayor, showed us basically the original plans for that area. Did include parking and a blacktop surface, and so he gave us reasonings for that. And one member of the group brought up the idea of that really being the first thing you see when you drive into Macedonia, so we came to an agreement that they would put a dirt mound there to begin with, and as funds are available, put some trees on there to kind of hide that parking space over there. So that was basically what we talked about, and I think Ms. Manley will have more stuff to say regarding the rec center and the changes there, which is what else we also talked about. So, boy, I didn't have charter review anymore, so I'm done with committees.
Okay, any other committee reports?
There is an outside tentative cemetery committee meeting for July 23rd at 6 p.m. I mentioned that tonight since we'll be on holiday.
Mr. Kastner sent us email regarding the Manor House, and just want to say that Sunday, June 24th from 1 to 4 p.m. they'll have their monthly open house to the public at the Manor House.
Great. Okay, department reports. Angela.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not used to being first. Our annual Fun Fest was held this past weekend. The weather was not 100% cooperative with us this year. I think every day that, even the days the sun was shining, there was usually about an 80 to 90% chance of rain in the forecast, so I think that kept a few people home. But we did have a strong crowd. We finished strong with ride sales and our revenue that we make off of the event. We had a lot of sponsorship involvement from community businesses, more so than any of the past years. So I'd like to thank our sponsors, especially City Tire Pros. They were a $5,000 sponsor this year for the overall event. We had our 5K on Friday of the event, and our numbers were up for the runners who participated in that. Jan participated, and although I have not met you yet, I do know I've seen your name, and Nino had participated as well. So it was a great event, and we'll finalize the books and have all of our numbers set here in the forthcoming meeting. We have our annual fishing day this Saturday at Longwood Park. You do have to register, even though it is a free event for children. We have 2 time slots. They do receive a free fishing pole and lunch, along with some instruction, and this is all funded through a grant that we do receive. We get a $1,000 grant for this event. So that should be fun. And then just to mention, the annual citywide garage sale is happening June 23rd and 24th. So if you would like to participate at your residence within the city, you can contact the rec center to register, and we will add you to a master list. So people coming into our city to browse garage sales will have everybody's addresses who are participating in that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, there was just one item that I wanted to add is that the rec facility addition is the walls are going up. We're almost to the roof level where we can get the decking on. The plumbing is completed. The electrical is probably at least the new electrical that's coming to the new addition is probably about 50% completed. Today they were prepping for the pour for the inside, so we're going to pour the floors. Once the floors are poured, we'll start building the interior walls. Even though our decking is not on yet, we'll get them up to a certain height and have the plumbers come back so that we can get to all the where all the toilet stalls and everything and the floor drains are going in. So we're moving along pretty good. We're going to certainly bring this job in way under cost, and I'm hoping to see that it's finished somewhere in the September, October timeframe. So we're pushing along fairly quickly now, and I'm sure that the residents are really going to enjoy this new locker room facility. So,
Can I add something, sir?
sure.
First of all, thank you for your time, Angela, in the spirit of Macedonia Fun Fest.
Wait.
I know that you spent your weekend away from your husband for the most part and your family, so it is appreciated at the time you spent there, as well as the employees that were there working. I think council would all agree that that's a bit of a sacrifice, and we do appreciate that. Thank you.
It's my
Isn't
pleasure.
it the Fun Fest
It is
spirit?
the spirit of
Macedonia
Macedonia
Fun
Fun
Fest.
Fest, and we have legislation stating such.
And it was very nice to hear John and his band finally at the Spirit of Macedonia on Sunday.
Yes.
He's our aquatic director who we've talked about music every year, and he had his band up there. They're pretty awesome. So we're hoping to get him back because unfortunately got cut short when the storm moved in.
Yeah.
But we did get the fireworks. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It worked out.
Yep. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Rhonda?
Just wanted to keep you updated on the Ohio Department of Taxation, their collection of our net profit taxes. According to Rita, we were going to be losing about $123,000 that were going to be collected through Rita and dispersed to us through Rita. However, now these are going to be going to the Ohio Department of Taxation. We received our first distribution of $5,200. And it's going to take them, I'm just finding out bits and pieces as we go, but it's going to take them 30 to 60 days to get me a report to tell me how to record this, like what's our gross, what is the fee that's on there, and obviously we know the net amount. And we get a distribution twice a year. So we'll get one in May and we get one in November. That's it.
That's our state legislators that work for us.
Correct. We did have the meeting today with Moody's. Our representative from Stiefel Nicholas, which is our underwriters for this bond issue, she felt that it went very well, but she agrees that there's not a high chance that it's going to get upgraded to a AA2. So it is going to cost the city additional dollars over the life of the bond issue. I have the refund program. We've had 494 refunds applied for, and we've paid out about $51,000 thus far. There's a little over a month. Since July 15th it lands on a Sunday, I would assume we would give them till July 16th to submit those refunds, but that's the last day. The income tax increase to 2.5% that you're putting on the ballot, I hope the residents keep in mind that the 1 mil fire levy is not going to be renewed then, and that's going to cost the city $400,000 if this 0.25% does not get passed. So council has to think about what you're going to do if this does not get passed in November. That's a pretty big chunk. It covers over 3 employees plus additional pension for the fire department. The taxes that are paid to another city where we give 100% credit, the city of Macedonia does not get any of that money. That stays with the community that you're working in. So even though we give 100% credit, we're not getting any of those dollars. And also to let everybody know, seniors are not paying any of this income tax increase at all. They're not paying any of the income tax. If they have pensions and Social Security, they do not pay taxes. And now the property taxes are going to go down depending upon what size house or what the value of their house is. So I hope our residents keep in mind that the city truly we needed both. We needed an income tax increase and we needed the levy to be renewed. I appreciate that you're going for at least one of them and hoping that the city gets this passed in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Black apologizes for not being here tonight, but his son just got back from Iraq on Monday, so he is in the state of Texas. And our Army veteran in the back is applauding. Also, just to remind everyone, the hydrant crew's out. They're working in all 3 communities. They're making good progress, getting somewhere between 70 and 90 hydrants done a day. Doing a great job, just like they did last year. And just a reminder that July 4th will come before our next meeting, and even though people don't believe it, you can buy fireworks in Ohio, but it is illegal to shoot them off in Ohio, and they are dangerous, and we don't want to be busy on July 4th. So please don't shoot them off in Ohio. Buy them and take them to Michigan or wherever you say you're going to take them, and don't make us busy. And other than that, happy July 4th.
Going off of what Captain Ripley said, also remember that there are combat veterans that live among us, and they are not always appreciative of hearing your loud bangs going off, especially in their neighborhood. My father's a combat veteran. He's never been a fan of fireworks, so keep them out of my neighborhood, please.
I did want to talk to council. I let you know that I spoke to Chief Golden regarding the 911 system. He had a meeting today. He said the cost is roughly about $135,000 for the system and the maintenance of the system over the next 5 years. The system itself, he says, is roughly $50,000, and then each year the maintenance is like, $15,000  1 year, 16, it goes up gradually. So he said the entire cost for the system is roughly $135,000. And that is for a 5-year period. After year 5, we're not required to purchase a new system if the system is still working, but we would have to pay $20,000 every year thereafter for maintenance. So it could last 10 years, it could last 7 years, you just have to wait and find out how long the system actually works and how long they'll actually
Support it.
and have parts for it.
And our current system, we can't get parts for. Is that something that?
He said no. He said ours is currently 15 years old.
Yeah, we can't continue to maintain our current system.
And then he was also supposed to find out if it could be leased.
Well, he said it doesn't matter he says you can piggyback off of another community, but he said it's more expensive, it'd be more dollars to do that, because you have to then buy pay them, then you have to get the equipment in here to connect with them. He said it's more expensive to piggyback off another community.
But that's not leased.
He said leasing doesn't make sense to lease it because they're already giving you basically a 5-year contract for each year.
So he didn't ask how much it would be.
He said it doesn't make sense to lease, is what he told me.
We still want to look at it. I think that's what she's alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at that. We'll find out if there is a lease option. Is in addition to that is that we have a redundant 911 location, which is in Sagamore. Currently, do we not?
No, I don't.
We haven't done that yet?
I don't.
No, there's no councils in Sagamore.
But I understood that we needed to have a redundant system.
We do.
That would be part of this new system that we set up.
The backbone redundancy, yes. It's not done yet. It's part of this.
And that we would then station in Sagamore.
They were talking about it. I don't know if the decision's been made.
Okay. Mark, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, moving on then, any unfinished business?
I just make one comment. We've talked about the roads. We talked about what roads, we've got a lot of roads under construction. Way overdue. If I could just remind residents, one-way signs mean one way. Crow is only going north. That means if you come off 82, you can drive on Crow. But if you're coming down Berkshire or Shepherd Hills or Deepwood, you can't make a left turn onto Crow. We've had numerous complaints from people who are going north that have suddenly had to slam on the brakes because someone's coming south. Once they're done with that side of the street, it's going to reverse. But there are one-way only signs on there. There are also people working there during the day. And a reminder that all the local streets are 25 miles an hour. They're not get down the street as fast as you can because you're going to drive through as quick as you can. I have to say today, Shepherd Road, I believe, is 35. Mm-hmm. Somebody went by me at 65.
Oh.
Guys, there's a reason we have, and it's safety. And the last thing we want to do is have an accident, but please, on Crow, could you just pay attention to the signs, please?
Mayor, may I make a suggestion in reference to that? Okay, if you're coming down the hill, if you're going westbound on Shepherd or Shepherd Hills Boulevard or on Berkshire, all you initially see is a detour sign with an arrow. I think it would behoove us to make it a little bit more decisive, no left turn here, and then when we make the switch, no right turn here. I've had a couple of complaints myself about that. Somebody got stopped about 100 feet before 82 going southbound, and the employee of one of the companies that was there wasn't going to let him go the other 100 feet. And he says, that's fine. He says, I'll just turn around in this lot, turn around in the lot, and he went straight across around the building to 82 anyway. But I think the signage has to be a little bit more decisive. It'd make it a lot easier and a lot safer.
So there's no sign there indicating that there's no left turn?
Not until you make the left turn, then you got the big sign in the barricade that says one way, do not enter.
Okay.
Although at Berkshire and Crow, there are one-way arrows showing you this way when you come down the hill. So,
They're not,
people, we could use more signs. Do
They're not-
not enter something, but
Mayor, they're not following the manual of uniform traffic control devices. They're close, and I'm familiar with it, but the company doing the work needs to definitely improve their signage.
Okay.
my fear is one of them is gonna get hurt. 'Cause these
Well,
people
I
are
mean, if
just-
there's adding some additional signs, that should be no problem. And I know the first day that we had put the signs up, there were people that were driving in both directions. And I was getting calls after call, and
It's like Ledge Road. But I do want to say thank you to those who live on Crow. My husband noticed the fact that you all are parking on the side, where you had, the letterhead said, you can go park on the side street, or you can park inside the cones. It is amazing. All of you on Crow are putting up with an interesting situation, which will benefit you in the long run, but you are following the recommendations. It's the folks coming down Crow.
And, you know, I gave up of my parking lot at the professional building so that we could put the bank of mailboxes at that location. Initially, it was thought to put it over on one of the side streets, but I thought it would be much safer for people to be able to pull into a parking lot, get their mail, and then move on, as opposed to a side street.
But there is progress, the curbs.
The curbs, they
are
made a
going
lot
in
of
on the
progress today. They did a lot
west
of
side.
curbs, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
When will they finish the other roads? I know we've always talked about, but I run the one road and it's got, like someone had put feet,
Right.
big heavy metal. There are
Yeah,
they're intended.
What, on Driftwood?
It was a
Yeah.
Driftwood?
All
Yeah,
the
we
way.
just had that conversation.
Yeah.
All the way.
That,
a
actually,
tree
we're
company.
reaching out to the contractor that was Hercules, I believe, that did the work, to tell them that they gouged our road, number one. But number two, when we do the finish coat onto the street, all those imperfections will be taken care of. You know, right now, there's a curing process with the binding coat that goes down on a road. And actually, you get some, there's moisture actually comes up. It takes quite a bit of time. That's why they don't put the top coat on it for like 30 days, so that you can get it to dry out completely, because it's still soft in
But what
various
did
areas.
they take that it looks like every
They
3
had
feet,
very large
there's a
trucks.
square?
They had very large trucks parked there, and they put very large trees in the trucks. And that it wasn't cured hard enough, and the last coat wasn't on, so that's why it's not, it doesn't look like it's a skid mark or anything moving. It was just they were sitting there with
Right.
heavy trucks, put
And
heavy
it's on
stuff in
both
them.
sides of the street.
Yeah, it's pretty much, the entire
Yeah, it
street
was,
down
as I
there.
understand, it was in the center of the street, basically,
It's on the sides,
on the sides.
all the way down.
Yeah, it's
I
the center
ran
the
it
center
this
of the
morning,
length.
and it's like
It's the center of the
pole,
length of
pole,
the street,
pole.
but
Okay.
it's, from about
So
halfway
whoever did
down
that, we need-
eastbound.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need
he's-
to
Yeah.
rectify.
They've contacted
Yeah,
them.
we're in contact with the company that caused the problem, and we're also letting our contractor know what cures that need to be made, so that we can charge it back to the company that
It's not
did the
this
damage.
Cleveland water, is it?
Yeah. Okay, Any other unfinished business, any new business?
One item, Mayor, we kind of breezed by ordinance 69, which is our first reading for the 1/4% that we talked about. This council spent a lot of time getting to where we're at today to come to a decision to come back to the voters to give the seriousness of where we're at. One thing I want to bring up is there was the talks in the last one about us threatening people with, if it doesn't pass, we're going to do this. I've talked with the mayor and administration, and we're going to approach this thing in the way that we're just going to tell you what we need and where we need to go. To give another piece of the seriousness of it, the 911 system we've been talking about all night, in order to fund that, we're going to pull out of our emergency reserve. So we are dipping into the money that is put aside for a true emergency. We're there now. We have to do something to bring us back up to speed to where we need to be. We talk about tax increases. The one that just passed, we can thank all the people that work in our community. They're the ones paying for it. Our residents pay nothing more. There's a refund. It doesn't cost us a penny. This is the first time that we're going to come to people and say, we need your help. We need a little bit more money to fund our safety services. So when you think about what you're reading in the papers and what you're seeing on social media and the conjecture that's already begun this evening with the resident that came and spoke tonight, if you can make any logic of what was stated tonight, I'd like to have you explain it to me, because it's pretty simple. We have a lot of needs, and our carryover currently is around $200,000. In order to fund the ladder truck and the staffing that we need, that's why we're here today. Our costs have gone up. We haven't raised taxes since 1963, outside of one time when the economy fell out for a temporary 3-year period. So that's where we're at today. There's no threats here. It's the reality of where we're at. I don't want to get into the stuff online where everyone's talking and giving opinions, because one person says, Matt, they call us Taxadonia. We haven't taxed you guys. This is where we're at. This is the first time we're coming and asking for your help. So when you see those things, I'd ask that you think about what you're reading and come to the people that are the professionals that are putting it out there and explaining to you why we are where we are. Don't just run with it and say, oh, we don't need it. So think about that when you read those things, please.
And consider the idea that, there's facts and there's misleading facts. The resident brought up that the average income tax rate in Ohio is 1.7%. That is an absolutely 100% meaningless fact to our discussion. That might be true. For one thing, you don't want to look at the average tax. You want to look at the median, what most other communities have their tax rate. Communities that have a 1% tax rate can really throw off that figure. Second of all, the state of Ohio basically brings no bearing into the situation and tax rate. Our residents do not live or work in the rest of the state of Ohio. There are probably more residents here that work in Pennsylvania than they do in Cincinnati or Coshocton. You need to look at the tax rates in your neighboring communities. You need to look at the income tax rates where your residents are working. So this 1.7 figure, I assume is, and it also makes no sense because Twinsburg only has a 2% income tax rate, but they have a higher tax base than us. So, in regards to the tax base, it makes absolutely no sense to compare Macedonia to their ability to raise income based on the tax base of some other communities. So I have a feeling this is going to be some sort of rallying cry, something that's going to be repeated over and over again, and that number makes absolutely no sense. It has nothing to do with our situation. We need to raise our income tax to 2.5%, of which you will only be charged 2.25% before or after you get your refund. So those are the figures you actually need to pay attention to.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have motion second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and have a good evening. By the way,